And I think ICE 200 was a fascinating example of the institution as a collective doing some things really, really well. And I think it's because we had an absolute focus on what we were trying to achieve. And of course, the focus of ICE 200 was to talk to the general public. And I think this was a huge success, and it demonstrated a real appetite from the public to understand civil engineering, to understand infrastructure, and also to be engaged in the debate and the discussion and to put their views forward. And I think we proved during our 200th year that actually when we engage with the public and we talk to them about the things that they really care about and we explain the trade-offs and the choices, they then in return absolutely understand the decisions that infrastructure providers and deliverers and operators make. And I don't think we should lose that. I think it's really fundamental. And of course, people in the nicest sense are not that interested in bending moments. They don't understand what rebars are. They're really focused on whether they can get the kids to school, whether they can get home, whether their kids have got somewhere to live, whether there are jobs. And I think we proved last year that if we reposition the way that we talk to people in the things, about the things that they really understand and care about, that it is much, much easier for the public then to understand what we do and why we do it. And I think that's a really, really important piece that we must not forget when we engage with our members and with the public, and we just bank that piece, I think. I think there's another element as well. We should absolutely understand that the global engineering industry, of whichever discipline one is changing. The effect of data, digital engineering, technology is absolute. And I think there's a great danger that we as, and I'm going to say construction rather than civil engineering because we all operate in this together. There's a great danger that construction falls behind because it does not adapt to the use of technology. And I know there are lots and lots of brilliant examples as to where we are using technology in our day-to-day lives, where we're embedding it in engineering projects. But the reality is now that when you buy a big infrastructure project, whereas in the past one was buying a heavy civils project, the reality now is we're buying a technology program. And it really is about system of systems integrations. So in the nicest sense, and I go back to my point about the public wanting to engage on the things that the public cares about, the public really doesn't care how smart motorways work. They want a reliable journey time from A to B, and they expect us as infrastructure providers to do that. If we can't do that, or if we can only do it in one particular part of the system, then we're failing, and we have to use technology to be able to do this. And also, I think we have to be really honest with the public about where risk sits in the delivery of these programs. The technology comes at the beginning, but it also absolutely comes at the end. And there are a number of projects recently where we've tripped up with technology and not being able to integrate it. And of course, the public thinks that we're doing it badly. We're not, it's just new technology. So I think that there is an absolute understanding of that. And I think, therefore, that we as an institution have to understand that there are changing skill sets and that we need to be able to encourage people who perhaps don't have traditional civils backgrounds into our institution and make them feel welcome. And we need them more than they need us, and we need to understand that. And I think one of the things that I've also been asked about a lot, both in the UK but increasingly outside the UK, is Project 13. And Project 13, as many people know, is an industry-led initiative. It's led by something called the Infrastructure Client Group. And really what the ICG did was it looked at how to be better clients. And it looked very hard at the environment in which we are living at the moment. One of the observations it made was that if you look at productivity in the construction sector, it is flatlining and has flatlined for many years, where other industries, manufacturing, automotive, aviation, defence, their productivity has improved and improved and improved. So firstly, our productivity isn't very good. And secondly, if you look at the effects of that on the companies which are delivering infrastructure, actually they're not making enough money to be able to innovate. They're not making enough money to invest in training. And as a consequence, what has been happening is that there is just a spiral where people will buy infrastructure on the basis of the lowest capital cost. So the cost of the asset, rather than looking at how much value do I get from the asset over its whole life. And the reality, of course, is, and I go back again to this point about talking to the public, they'll care about how much it costs, but really they want it to work. And they want to make sure that when they get on it, it's reliable. They want to be able to ensure that they can get from A to B, that the electricity is there when they want it, that they have got clean water. So for the public, of course, the value is in the operation. And that's where Project 13 seeks to rebalance the way in which infrastructure is procured. And again, one of the key strands that comes through is that data and digital engineering and the whole business of digital transformation is fundamental to the way in which we will get greater value for money out of our infrastructure. Now, of course, why is this important? And I think this comes on to the second strand of what we were doing last year as part of our 200th anniversary, and particularly, I think, around the Global Engineering Congress. And of course, for that Congress, we brought together well in excess of 3,500 people who came to Great George Street, happened to be Great George Street, could have been anywhere in the world. 80 different nationalities represented, almost every major body associated with civil engineering and infrastructure, led by the World Federation of Engineering Organizations. It was a fantastic tribute to the convening power of engineering institutions. And of course, we got behind the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I think that was really impressive. I think the way that people took forward that program is really impressive. We are part of a movement, though, and the work that the ICE and our membership is driving around UN Sustainable Development Goal 6, which is around water and sanitation, is fundamentally important to making the world a better place. And I think if we learnt anything from last year, it is that we, as an institution, have to operate with lots and lots of other institutions collectively to ensure that the world is a better place. And there's a fundamental reason for this, as well as an obvious efficiency reason. But the fundamental reason is things we're building now, we will definitely be operating in 2050, and maybe 2060, and maybe 2070. Now, the population of the world at the moment, 7.2 billion, plus or minus a couple of 100 million. The population in 2050 is likely to be around 10 billion. That is an over 30% uplift in the population. And so the infrastructure that we are building, the work that we are doing as an institution, the support to our members, the support to decision makers, the support to policy makers has to be framed so that we can mitigate the effects of such a huge population increase. Because if we don't ensure that the infrastructure that we build around the world is making people's lives better, is helping local, national, and regional economies, and therefore is making the place in which people are born a place in which they wish to stay, if we don't ensure that, then the challenges that we currently see now in 2019 around mass migration, and you don't need to look far to see the effects of mass migration, but the challenges that we see now will be dwarfed by the challenges we see when we have an extra 2.5 billion people. And of course, at the moment, the way our infrastructure is predicated is those people are going to be based in cities. And also, if you take, not the worst case, but if you take one of the more damaging cases, it is likely that a sizable percentage of those people are going to live in slums. And so we have to ensure that the work that we are doing as an institution with others is mitigating the effects of that population change. And on top of that, we will have the effects of changing weather patterns, climate change. We will have the effects that need to be mitigated around resource poverty. There are a whole raft of things, and that's why the ICE, with others, has put its international development work so firmly behind realizing the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And that is one of the key strands of activity that we're seeing as we go through. We need to recognise that over the last 3 or 4 years, we have seen a number of major infrastructure failures. We have had fires in buildings. There's been a fire in UK in Grenfell Tower. We have had bridge failures. We've had temporary works failures. And this says that it is increasingly important that we provide our members and society with the best possible technical knowledge that allows them to be better engineers. And increasingly, that is going to be digitally delivered, because our members operate globally and they can't constantly rely on a particular event looking after their technical needs. We have to be moving to digital delivery. We will be looking hard at how we ensure that not only can people demonstrate their CPD, but also that we provide them with additional methods of being able to assure both their employers and the public that they genuinely are competent to deliver the things that they're delivering. And I think that's going to, again, with a series of inquiries which are going actually around the world, that will become increasingly important. And that is why the ICE knowledge team are focusing so hard on creating knowledge modules that will allow people who are already professionally qualified to demonstrate that they have additional expertise. So what? It is a really, really challenging environment. But I have to say, I think that the ICE has adapted to that. I think that the ICE has learnt the lessons of ICE 200. I think as I go round, both in UK and overseas, I have never found the ICE, its insight and the intellectual knowledge of its members as much in demand as I find it now. I think that's fabulous. But I do think that what we need to do, and again, I keep coming back to those 2 points, talking to the public about things that the public cares about in a language that they understand. I think that's fundamentally important and we mustn't lose it. And I think we need to recognise that as a global engineering profession, that we have a duty to make the world a better place. And a lot of that, you can argue about the UN Sustainable Development Goals, but if we can achieve those as a global profession, I think will be a huge step forward in delivering both for our children and our children's children the sort of world that otherwise they will look at us and say, "Grandad, why is it like this? Why didn't you make it better?" And we can't do that on our own. This is going to be working in alliance with others, working in alliance with people in the United Kingdom, with global organisations, with engineering organisations, with investors. We should never think that we know best. We are just one of many organisations. We're a really good organisation, but we're one of many, and we should constantly be asking ourselves how we can work with others to achieve what it says on the ICE Charter. That is really to make the world a better place. Thank you very much.